Welcome, guys. Good to see you.
Good to be here.
Zach, a pleasure. Director of the new movie.
Awesome.
And Dave, who is here with a special friend. Who do you have?
I have Getty. He's one of our barn owls we have here at Lincoln Park Zoo.
Okay. And for your movie, Legends of the Guardians, I mean, there's a barn owl who's one of the stars.
Yeah.
Can I now tell you, though, just sitting in here, I'm glad you didn't do a movie with eagles.
I don't know if they're any less dangerous. They're heavier.
They're heavier. But with yours, great story. I mean, it's all about, I mean, you've got family, you've got suspense, you've got love, and you've also got just finding out about oneself.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing that really attracted me to the idea of making the movie was, I do also love the sort of hero's journey kind of part of the movie. Soren, the barn owl, starts out in this like very humble beginnings and then ends up in, sort of living the dream that he always thought he it's almost like a Camelot type story, like where you can imagine the young knight who then goes and ends up becoming a knight eventually. That's kind of the idea of it, and then of course sort of learns to embrace like his strengths and weaknesses.
And like you said, yeah, he's got to go through a whole lot. I mean, got to deal with, first of all, just him and his brother outside trying to figure out how to jump from one branch to another, miss it, boom, and then they get captured and taken away, and somewhat wanting to be taken over to the other side or whatever.
Yeah, dark side, the pure ones, yeah.
Yes. And then, like you said, then the hero escapes, goes off, and actually gets to meet the guys he wanted to meet in the first place, the Guardians.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, the cool thing about that was, when we were actually putting the actual, what are the Guardians? What do they look like? What is their environments and all that. So it was fun to explore, like having to take like the owl anatomy and understand like how to put helmets on them and how to put claws on them. So we did a lot of work to try and make those things feel organic and real. So when Soren saw him, he was like, "Wow, that's like what I imagined. How awesome I thought it would be."
Well, with the 3D, I mean, you're sitting there, and when they're flying right at you, just like when he was flapping his wings a minute ago, that's how you feel. Like they're coming right at you. Animation has just taken such a great turn, I guess you'd say, over the past 10 or so years, where it's like live action, but you've created it.
Yeah. I mean, the incredible thing that we did, I think, that the guys did at Animalogic was, they wrote this software that really renders the feathers in a realistic way. Yeah. So when you actually see the owls in the movie, the texture of the feathers and the way they sort of overlap and all that, the way the wind blows them, I mean, it looks real.
Right. And how many different types of owls were there portrayed, I should say, in the movie?
I think there's 16. I think there's 16. That's a look again. There's a lot.
Right.
I mean, of the main owls, the main group of owls, it's Soren, who is a barn owl, and Twilight, who's a great gray, and Digger, who's a burrowing owl, and Gilfie, who's an elf owl.
Okay. Great battle scene, too. I mean, you're, of course, familiar with battle scenes. I mean, directing 300 and also large groups with Dawn of the Dead. I mean, but you go to see this one, and just the battle at the end is like, man, this thing is fantastic.
I mean, it's fun, to sort of have that third dimension of, the movie's in 3D, but what I mean is, normally it's like the battle sort of takes place on in a normal movie, sort of on a flat plane, where I think, with this, because the owls are fighting in space, that the camera also gets to travel around in a very sort of dynamic way. It was really fun to conceive and shoot.
Right. And then, like you and I actually talked about a little bit earlier, this is the first owl movie, and a few years back, there was a movie that kind of kicked things off for penguins. Is this one going to do the same for owls?
I hope so. The owls, they've been underrepresented in this cinematic world, and I think it's time they got their just dessert. But the awesome thing about owls, is that they have many of the owls have like a barn owl has like a facial disc, which for an animator and just for us to make the movie, they're very expressive because they have that sort of anthropomorphic, kind of feature of a normal bird has kind of like a long snouty kind of look, where an owl has that because they have basically they have a face.
Right.
It allows them, it allows us when we're making the movie to make them express in a way I think that it's kind of. Well, it was really fun for us as to get them, because the movie's pretty dramatic, so there's a lot of scenes where Soren has to be really either upset or happy or whatever, all the,
Right.
the myriad of emotion that he expresses. And we were able to do it, with the owls because of they have faces.